tuck it in. My first grade teacher stole my first love note. I'm still remembering it out loud. She's a monster. I'm sorry to interrupt the reminiscing of our lives beyond cell phones, before cell phones, but it is time for us to go ahead and start. I have a brief slideshow that I'm going to go through, and there's going to be ample time for questions if you have them at the end. If you have any questions that I don't have answers to, we'll write them down and we'll get back to you with those answers as quickly as we can. My name is Paula Lanou. I'm the secondary principal. I have Mrs. Honorato and Mrs. Norton here too. So we have representative from the elementary, those crazy kids and their cell phones in the elementary school. But so we do have some people here from the different buildings. So if you do have any questions that might apply to different buildings, feel free to ask those at the end also. One thing I would like to start with is there was an experiment done at Elkridge Middle School with 30 students with 30 phones in 40 minutes. And I'm just going to play a video for you. It's about 4 minutes long, just to give you an idea of what teachers and students have to deal with those distractions of cell phones and electronic devices in the classroom.
Phones in schools. They are devices we love to hate, right? In an emergency, parents want the ability to be in contact with their child. But there's another consideration as well, how those phones impact learning and concentration in the classroom. Dee, you got a chance to find out firsthand.
I sure did. We found a teacher who wanted to demonstrate just how much of a distraction cell phones present. She conducted an experiment, and I was there. And honestly, even I was shocked by the learning interrupted from too many texts. Get your phone out, turn it all the way up. Those words get the attention.
All your notifications on.
Of every student with a smartphone buzzing in their hand.
Because you're going to track your notifications.
Cell phones have become such a distraction. Here at Elkridge Middle School, they're conducting an experiment. 30 students, 30 phones, 40 minutes, tracking every text, snap, message, and game notification.
If you need more post-it notes, I'll just walk with them.
Before class, I asked students, are cell phones disruptive in class?
Yeah.
Even you admit, yeah.
In school, I like to text because it's easier.
While they track, let's talk numbers. Research shows the average teen checks their phone every 15 minutes.
As you might expect, teenagers will tell you, oh, what's the big deal? It just takes a second. But research shows the distraction lasts much longer than the ping and the look. It takes over 20 minutes to get re-engaged into a task.
Students don't even have to see the notification. Be distracted.
You'll still get the buzzes in the pocket. You know, you kind of feel like you're missing out if you don't have, the stuff.
Fear of missing out. They are afraid if they're not there hooked up all the time, they're going to miss out on something important.
He says phones aren't just a source of distraction, they create anxiety.
Even watching those little bubbles go on the iPhone back and forth and waiting for someone to respond can create a lot of anxiety.
To demonstrate this, researchers hooked up students to electrodes.
Where we clip on two little clips on each finger that measure heart rate and galvanic skin response, which is just how much your skin sweats.
They told students to watch a video while their phones were moved out of reach. Then they secretly started texting students who could hear but now couldn't see the notifications.
Every single time they spiked their GSR, meaning their skin response showed a lot of arousal.
Back in class,
And if you give me one, go at it.
time to tally the texts.
Oh, we have one more. Oh, okay, have one. 3, 4.
Eventually, they stopped at 485 text messages. For social media, 122.
No, add. I can just add to it.
Make that 123. For a grand total, 662 notifications. One every few seconds of this 40-minute class. What just happened in there?
That was crazy. I knew they were going to get a lot of notifications. I didn't know they were going to get over 500.
While surprised, she says it explains why she can no longer cover her long-time class curriculum.
Something we easily could have gotten done in 20 minutes, and
years ago is now taking so much longer.
Probably I get less work done in class and then I have to do more homework and stuff. It's really hard to like focus on other things.
Too many texts impacts concentration, education, and mental health. Yes, the writing is on the wall, so to speak. Now, what to do? An analysis in Education Week found more than 30 U.S. districts or schools enacted some sort of cell phone restriction. Just last month, 2 high schools in Missouri banned cell phones and smartwatches. But that's the exact opposite solution our researcher recommends.
What I tell parents is, please do not take the phone away from your kid. Well, that's just going to cause major anxiety.
Dr. Rosen suggests helping kids retrain their ability to focus, starting with 15-minute increments, followed by a 1-minute text check, then work on expanding. Have tech-free zones for kids to disengage from their phones, and he suggests minimizing notifications.
So we really just want the kids to learn to exist with the technology in a way that makes it so they can function.
That is something the Elkridge Middle Principle supports. Educators here believe since smartphones are part of our world, we need to help kids better manage the technology, not the other way around.
Give them their best fighting chance to be successful in school.
There are phone settings that still allow parents to.
So what I would like to point out with that video, at the end they do talk about helping students, helping children learn to manage their phones and learn to manage how to utilize them appropriately and effectively. And that is something that I'm glad to see some parents here tonight. That is something that definitely should be and can be happening at home as far as limiting screen time. We were talking the other day, and I forget who mentioned it, but someone checked their screen time. I think it was in a parent meeting, and checked their child's screen time, and they had, I think it was 17 hours of screen time for that day. And kids say maybe it's I'm listening to music or I'm doing this, but 17 hours of anything during the day is too many hours. If I came up and said, I exercised for 17 hours today, that's too much. That's too much. So we need to think of it like that. And with the New York State cell phone ban in schools, and I'll get to that policy in a moment, that's doing a hard reset here at school to get our students away from those phones and away from those screens while they're here within our walls during the school day. When they're home, having those 15-minute increments or having those settings so that, they take breaks from their phones can only help to increase their engagement when they're home, just like we're working on doing here at school. So the New York State Distraction-Free Schools came out and is expected to be implemented for this school year, the 25-26 school year. It requires all K-12 public schools, charter schools, and BOCES programs to prohibit the unauthorized use of internet-enabled devices during the school day. That includes smartwatches, smartphones, and the AirPods, like the wireless headphones that would connect to one of those smart devices. The idea behind it is to improve student focus, protect student mental health, and promote in-person social interactions. This is my first year here at Tamarack, but my previous district implemented a cell phone policy last year. And so I got to see firsthand several things. Students talking to each other during lunch and engaging with each other and having conversations. A decrease in social media issues between students during the school day. That's not to say that it wasn't still happening when they were out of school. We can't control everything, but a decrease in those social media teenage drama issues during the school day because they weren't able to get those notifications that would have caused them that anxiety. It was a struggle. It was a heavy lift as far as kids getting used to not having their phones. But in the long run, we did really notice a change in how they were able to interact with each other, with their schoolwork, and with the adults in the building. This is just a list of the provisions in the law. Let me do this. I feel like this is gonna be a little bit better. So the devices that we have, again, smartphones, smartwatches, tablets, earbuds. Our school is one-to-one, so students will have a device to be able to do their homework and their classwork. They wouldn't need a cell phone for any of the assignments in class, so that's not something that will be necessary for academic success. It covers all instructional and non-instructional time during the school day. So for us, it's from our start of school before when students get into the building until 2:11 when the final bell rings. Students can use their phones after that time, especially if they're needing to call for rides after practice is over or something like that. Duration of the ban, I just touched on that. It's a statewide mandate, but individual schools have the flexibility to create our own policies. One of the things that was a little bit flexible was how we did it, like where students would be storing their device. I'm sure you've heard of some schools using Yonder pouches. Has anybody heard of those? Those are those pouches that lock, and then they have to be unlocked at the end of the day with a magnet. Those pouches are helpful. However, they don't remove the cell phone from near the child. So it is still near them. If it's not shut off or powered down, they can still hear alerts. So we've addressed that in a different way here at Tamarack. What they do say specifically in the New York State provisions is that storing devices in a backpack that students can access at any time is not permitted. They do want those devices locked in lockers or in secure phone pouches or secure phone cases, like away from student access. There are exceptions to this, and one of the first exceptions is for medical needs. Accommodations are provided for students who need a device for health-related monitoring. Two examples that come to mind are if a student is a type 1 diabetic and uses their cell phone in order to monitor their blood glucose levels. A second medical exception could be if a student has a hearing impairment and they use their cell phone in order to help with their auditory needs. Those are two things where there would be a medical exception for that, and those are clearly documented for students. Emergency communication. The law does require schools to provide a way for parents to contact their children during the day in case of an emergency. We were just talking about when we went to school and we were younger, there was potentially a payphone in a lobby or something like that. You'll see in Tamarack's policy how we have accommodated for students being able to contact parents and parents being able to contact students. So our cell phone policy, I mentioned the hours 7:25 to 2:11. Students may use the phones located in the offices, for example, the main office, the nurse's office, or the counseling center to contact home upon request by the student or parent guardian during non-instructional time. Lunches, study halls, that sort of thing. If a student does need to get a hold of their parents, they're welcome to go into one of those offices with a pass in order to make that phone call. And if a parent needs to contact their child, they just need to call one of the offices and we will get a hold of that child, have them relay a message or have them call home. When students come to school, it's going to be their responsibility to put their phone inside their locker before going to their classroom. Students are prohibited from having a phone in the bathroom at all times, even after that 2:11 time comes along. They're also prohibited from going to their lockers to check or use their phone or smart device. Our daily process, when students arrive at school, they're going to turn their phone off or put it on airplane mode. They're going to place their phone inside their locker. Each student is assigned a locker, and each locker has a lock. Ms. McEwen has been making sure that all lockers are in order and they have working locks so that every student will be set with that when they arrive. Students arriving late or leaving early will follow the same process when entering and exiting the building. You get picked up for a doctor's appointment or get dropped off late for that. Same thing, go to your locker first, drop your phone off, and then pick it up when you're leaving. If a student chooses to bring a cell phone or smartwatch in the building, this is just a little disclaimer. We're not liable for the loss, damage, theft, or loss of data of any personal electronic device. Violations of this policy. The phone will be taken away and sent to the office. Office staff will keep a record of the date, time, and location of the incident. This is for the first offense. Students may retrieve their phone at dismissal. If a student's phone does end up in the office, we have obtained locking cell phone cases with labeled slots. So we'll be able to give a student a ticket with a number on it, and that's the number slot that their cell phone will be in the locking case. No disciplinary consequences will be administered for the first offense. A little get out of jail free on that one. Second offense, phones are taken away and sent to the office. Staff will enter a disciplinary referral, and a parent or guardian will be contacted by the staff member or an administrator if the incident occurred outside of the classroom. There will be one after-school detention assigned. The third offense, phone taken away and sent to the office. Staff will enter the disciplinary referral, and a parent or guardian will be contacted. Parent pickup of cell phone only. So at that point for the third offense, parents will have to come to the school and pick that cell phone up. A parent conference will be required to create a student intervention wellness plan. 2 after-school detentions will be assigned. And if a parent requests for a student to bring their phone to school, it must be checked in at 7:25 a.m. and then stored in the main office until 2:11. So for that third offense and anything after, that phone's going to live in the main office in the locked case during the school day. And that's what I have for you. Does anyone have any questions for me that I can answer or that I can direct to our other administrators? Yes.
I have 2 quick questions.
Sure.
At the cell phone meeting this past fall, Mr. Rizzo had mentioned that most of the teachers in the secondary school were like completely burnt out of cell phones. They weren't, taking them away. They weren't even reprimanding kids. Even my son was 7 that kids were using them all the time, study halls in their labs. So one, how do we know that the teachers are all of a sudden going to start reprimanding and start enforcing these rules when they've been so burnt out with in the past? And the second one was they mentioned detention, and I was told at a previous board meeting months ago that they didn't even have staff to do after-school detention because they really didn't exist.
Okay.
Is that true, or?
So first question is teacher enforcement. And when I said this is going to be a heavy lift, that's one of the heavy things about it is that all of the adults in the building need to be on board to enforcing it. One of the things that's definitely different now than policies that we've had in the past is that it is a law at this point that we need to enforce this. And all adults in the building, myself included, will be working to enforce that law and that policy. There is such a thing as cell phone fatigue. It's tough when you don't have a law backing you and you're trying to enforce a cell phone policy. You get worn down. You get worn down with it. With this particular policy, now that we have students putting their phones in their lockers, which wasn't required before, it is going to take away that temptation of kids sneaking their cell phones during study halls or looking at them in their lap during class. So they won't have them near them, which will in turn make the policy itself more easily enforceable because the cell phone connection is going to be removed and the temptation will be removed. That's not to say that we won't have to deal with it because I'm sure we will run into students who figure out a workaround and we have to adjust to that. Just like kids figure out how to unlock those couches or, there's all different things.
In their binders,
Yeah,
they're actually going to put them in their locker.
And if they don't, then we follow those procedures and then they lose that privilege of even being responsible for that and they have that taken away. As far as the after-school detentions, it is my impression, and Ms. Norton, we have 5 people who are set up. Okay, we have it 5 days a week, and we have people who are set up in a rotation to staff that detention room. And so, there might be some days when there aren't any kids in detention, but there are going to be other days when we know we'll have it scheduled. And that's when, we'll be sure that we have students serving those detentions and a monitor in there and able to staff it. So it is a heavy lift, absolutely. Is it without flaw? We'll find things that we need to tweak and adjust as we go. But like I said, now that there's the strength of a law behind it, it's one of our duties as educators, just like all of the other laws that we enforce, to enforce this too. And it's just for the betterment of our students and their academic success and their mental health. Yeah, of course. Does anybody? Yes?
So in the sense of like sports after school.
Yes.
I think that I might have misheard it, but I just wanted to double check. You said after 2:11 they can't bring them into the bathroom. Does that?
Yeah, they just can't have them in the bathrooms really ever. It's weird. But they
What about like locker room?
locker room, cell phone is fine, but I do want to remind everyone that no pictures, no selfies, nothing like that in a locker room that could unintentionally capture an image of someone else while they were in there. We just want to make sure that we have everyone's privacy in mind too. But if they're in there for sports and they're trying to call for a ride, in the hallways, when they're out on the fields, I know sometimes cell phone service can be spotty in certain spots. I've learned that around here. But yes, they can absolutely use their phones to contact home for sports practices, calling for rides, that sort of thing. Yes.
As someone who has a kid that doesn't use their locker and never has, that's going to be very challenging, I think, for them to get acclimated to, number one. And I guess my second question is, what is the downside or what is the problem with them turning them off or putting them in airplane mode and just keeping them in their backpack in the event of a real life emergency versus them needing to go to their locker?
Okay. So first of all, just to address the keeping them in their backpack, that's not our rule. That's the New York State law. They have to keep them in a place like a locker or a locked cabinet, which are the two things that we're providing. I know a lot of kids don't use their lockers, and it is going to be a learning curve as far as that goes. I know we're fully prepared, and the staff is fully prepared to be in those hallways the first few mornings, helping with locks, helping kids get used to that, because it is something like that they're just not used to doing. I think I can still remember my locker combination from when I went to school here because we just did it. But we are fully prepared to give them that extra support and take away that locker anxiety that they may have. They may even realize, oh, I can put my winter coat in here too when it's cold out. If we're lucky enough to have the kids who wear winter coats when they come to school. But we're definitely going to be, working to support them with that. As far as having their cell phones on them in an emergency situation, I know that this is something that's in people's minds and on our minds. And Mrs. Morgan and I were just talking about that before this started today. And one thing I would like to keep in mind, and there's no perfect answer for this, but when there's a school emergency, we have protocol in place, and we have a structure in place for us to keep the kids as safe as we possibly can. And in order to do that, we need to be able to have their full attention. And in some situations, having a cell phone light on, having the glow of a cell phone would make a difference in an emergency situation. And so for us, and our primary intent for your children when they're in this building is to keep them safe and able to learn. I understand the question, but that's what we have to focus on is making sure that we keep them as safe as possible when we're doing any sort of whether it's a drill or not. We want to make sure that we have their full attention. And as we can see from that video, I know how I am when my phone goes off. You're distracted. Does anyone else have any questions for me? Yes.
So you are going to mandate for me to keep my an email, say you're going to code email and text messages, same protocols you already have. If something happens, that's how you're going to contact us, right?
Yes, yes.
So, so that we have to, we know to provide you that information.
I'm sorry, I just was having a hard time.
We have to, as a parent, we have to provide that information to you and to keep it up to date.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because I know sometimes when one year rolls into the next, and if a phone number changes or if an email changes, we may not always think to put it on there or thought that we already did, but yes, if we keep all of that information up to date so that we're able to contact parents through those means if necessary, through email or through cell phones where we send messages out through Skillshare. Yes, absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
And I really have students on first day in assembly.
Mrs. Norton and I have that planned, yes. We're going to meet with each grade level on the first or second day. And we're going to go over general things. I get the chance to introduce myself to them. I haven't met a lot of them yet. But we're going to go over cell phone policy, just to remind them and answer their questions too, of which I'm sure they'll have many. Answer their questions too, and just remind them why we're doing it and how we're going to be doing it and what our expectations are of them, and then, what they can expect from us in the process. Yes.
What is the protocol for the teachers using their cell phones? And I ask this because I have a son who's going into third grade, and him and his friends know exactly the teachers that are on their phones all the time.
Kids are very observant.
Certain teachers, I know who they are, spend a lot of time on their phones, and the kids talk about it. So, what is that? Are the teachers going to be setting as an example, like in the elementary school, for the kids as well? How does that work?
Did you want to?
I think it's actually something we covered at the faculty meeting, if I'm ever. The teachers, the band does not apply to teachers, of course. However, when the teachers are teaching, right, and with students and supervising students, that's not a time when they should use their cell phone for personal reasons. I have my cell phone on me all the time, and sometimes that's the way where I quickly communicate to my colleagues and other teachers, like important messages on the fly. That's different, but teachers really shouldn't be using their cell phones for personal reasons during instructional time or supervision time with students. And in my experience, the vast majority of teachers are very good about that, and that's based on my direct observations as well.
And that's right along with what Ms. Honorado was saying, as far as if teachers are instructing, if they have students under their care, that should be the main focus. They have planning, they have lunch, they have time when they're alone in their classrooms, then they can, conduct whatever business, doctor's appointment, maybe anything like that they need to. But when they have students under their care, unless it's a text coming in from, say, one of us about something, that should be their focus. Yes.
Back to the not using locker situation.
Yes.
So that first day, how do they know where their locker is, and how do they get their combination on the first day?
Okay. So their combination is on eSchool, on Parent Portal. You'll be able to find their locker number and their locker combination.
I have to plug my phone.
Make sure you can find it. I think Mrs. Perfetti behind you, she nodded, so maybe she can point it out if you know what it is. Yep. But those are on there, and like I said, we're going to be in the hallways to be able to help students find their lockers, figure out their locker combinations. And as far as like timing goes in the morning on that first day, we know things are going to be a little loose, making sure that kids get to their lockers and then are able to get to class without repercussion, without issue. Our priority is to make sure that they get settled in their routine for that.
What's going to be the best way for parents to update their content?
If they call, who does eSchool? That's Miss McEwen. She's, I think, under middle school office, middle school secretary. She would be the best way to update information. And if you wanted to email her, you could also do that. It's mckeon@brunswickcsd.org. And if you email her with any updates, then she can put them into eSchool, and that's what we all use to access to be able to find parent information.
And we're done.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes?
Two things. One, as communications for the school, I will say similar to that video, we just this year started an Instagram page because a lot of students are on Instagram. And I would post something, pep rally or something after school, and I would get so many likes from students during the day. And I could even go and see Hayden, what class is he in? Oh, he's in math. Why did he just like the Instagram post for the school type of thing? So, it does happen here. So it'll be interesting to see next time. Second, as a parent of two children, also one who does not use their locker, if their current locker is not in a region where their classes are, can their locker be used?
That's actually a very good question that I don't have the answer for right now, but I will ask Ms. McEwen. She was the one who was handling lockers, and I will ask her, and I will let you know. Okay? I do. Are there any other questions? And of course, if you think of anything, or if anyone who's watching the live stream, okay, if you think of anything once you leave here tonight, I want you to feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we'll answer your questions for you to the best of our ability. Okay. Remember, we're here for you. You can always reach us if you need anything, or if your children, when you get home, ask a question that you didn't think of. We're happy to answer for you, and we're looking forward to having them back in the building. Got a little boring here during the summer, even with the construction going on. All right, thank you very much. Have a nice night, everyone.